When I heard my son say those words, something inside me broke, and then rebuilt itself stronger than it had ever been. All you deserve is a chair in the corner, Mom. That's your place now. I stood frozen in the doorway of what used to be my bedroom, boxes stacked around me, watching my son, my own flesh and blood, gesture dismissively toward a worn armchair in the corner of his living room. The same son I'd raised alone after his father died. The same boy I'd worked 2 jobs to put through college. The man I'd spent my entire retirement savings helping to buy this very house we were standing in. Michael, I said quietly, my voice surprisingly steady despite the earthquake happening inside my chest. What are you talking about? He didn't even look at me. He was scrolling through his phone, probably looking at real estate listings or investment portfolios. My son, the successful financial advisor. It's simple, Mom. Kelly and I talked about it. You can have the chair in the corner. We'll set up a little area for you. But you need to understand, this is our house. Our rules. You're here because we're allowing it. I felt 68 years collapse down on my shoulders like a building giving way. After Henry died 15 years ago, I'd poured everything I had into Michael. Every penny, every ounce of energy, every dream I'd ever had for myself. I redirected it all toward him. And now, at an age when I should have been secure, comfortable, respected, I was being assigned to a chair in the corner like an old piece of furniture nobody wanted but felt too guilty to throw away. I gave you $40,000 for the down payment on this house, I said, my hands trembling slightly. Which I'm grateful for, Michael replied, still not looking up. But that doesn't mean you own the place, Mom. You gave that money as a gift. You said so yourself. I gave it to you because you said it would be our house. That I'd always have a home with you. He finally looked up, and I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Irritation. Impatience. Like I was a burden he'd grown tired of carrying. And you do have a home with us. You have your chair. You have space. What more do you want? What more did I want? I wanted my son back. The boy who used to hug me tight and tell me I was the best mom in the world. The young man who cried at his father's funeral and told me we'd get through it together. The graduate who promised he'd take care of me someday the way I'd taken care of him. But that person wasn't standing in front of me anymore. I should have seen it coming. There had been signs over the past 2 years since I'd moved in with Michael and his wife Kelly. Small things at first. The way Kelly would sigh when I asked to use the kitchen. The irritated glances when I left my reading glasses on the coffee table. The increasingly frequent family meetings where Michael and Kelly would list all the ways I needed to adjust my behavior to fit into their household. But I'd raised Michael to be kind, to be respectful, to honor family. I taught him those values every single day of his childhood. Surely they were still in there somewhere, just buried under the stress of his career and the influence of his wife. Surely. I raised you better than this, I said softly. Michael's jaw tightened. You raised me to be practical, Mom. To make smart decisions. And the smart decision is that Kelly and I need our space. We're planning to start a family soon. We can't have you constantly underfoot. Underfoot, I repeated. The word tasted like ash in my mouth. You know what I mean. Look, we're not kicking you out. We're just establishing boundaries. You'll have your corner. Your chair. Maybe we can put up a little privacy screen or something. But you need to understand that this is our life now. You're a guest here. A guest. In the house my money had helped buy. In the home where I'd been promised I'd always belong. I didn't argue. I didn't cry, though tears were burning behind my eyes. I simply nodded and walked back to my room. The small room at the back of the house that used to be Michael's home office before I'd moved in. The room where I was allowed to exist as long as I stayed quiet, stayed out of the way, stayed invisible. I sat on my bed, surrounded by the few possessions I'd kept when I'd sold my own small house 2 years ago. I'd sold it because Michael had been so insistent. Live with us, Mom. Why pay for your own place when you can be with family? We want you here. This can be your home. And fool that I was, I'd believed him. But sitting there in that small room, something shifted inside me. The hurt was still there, sharp and deep. But underneath it, something else was growing. Something harder. Something that whispered, you don't deserve this. You've spent your entire life sacrificing for others. When does it become your turn? I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. I still had some money, not much but some. After selling my house and giving Michael $40,000 for his down payment, I'd kept about $75,000 in savings. It was supposed to be my safety net, my emergency fund for medical expenses or long-term care if I ever needed it. But maybe I needed it now. Maybe the emergency was happening right here, right now, in this moment where I was being reduced to a chair in the corner. I started searching. Real estate listings. Property values. Mortgage requirements for seniors. I'd worked as a bookkeeper for 35 years before retiring. I knew numbers. I understood finances. And as I scrolled through listing after listing, an idea began to form. A dangerous idea. Probably foolish idea. But an idea that made me feel something I hadn't felt in 2 years. Powerful. The house I was sitting in, the house Michael and Kelly were so proud of, was worth about $300,000. They'd bought it with my $40,000 down payment and a $260,000 mortgage. Michael made good money, but he'd stretched himself thin with this purchase, as he'd complained about countless times. The mortgage payments, the property taxes, the maintenance, it was a constant stress, though he seemed to blame me for adding to that stress rather than acknowledging that he'd bought more house than he could comfortably afford. But here's what Michael didn't know. Here's what I discovered by accident 3 months ago when I'd answered the phone while he and Kelly were out. The bank had called. They'd wanted to speak to Michael about his financial situation. When I'd asked if there was something I should tell him, the representative had paused and then said, "Just have him call us about the late mortgage payments. We'd like to avoid any further action." Late mortgage payments. I'd said nothing to Michael when he came home. I'd waited to see if he'd tell me himself. He hadn't. Instead, he and Kelly had become increasingly irritable, increasingly eager to point out all the ways I was costing them money by living there. The extra electricity, the extra water, the extra food. Never mind that I paid them $600 a month in rent from my Social Security check. Never mind that I bought my own groceries and did most of the cooking and cleaning. Never mind that I'd given them $40,000 that had made their house purchase possible in the first place. I was a burden. An expense. An old woman who deserved nothing more than a chair in the corner. That's what my son thought. I looked at the real estate listing in front of me. A small 2-bedroom house on the edge of town, move-in ready, listed for $68,000. It needed work, the photos made that clear, but it was structurally sound. The mortgage calculator told me that with my $75,000 in savings, I could buy it outright with money left over. My own house again. My own space. My own rules. But that wasn't the idea that was really taking shape in my mind. That wasn't the thought that was making my heart beat faster and my hands shake with something that was definitely not fear. No, the real idea was much bigger than that. I spent the next 3 days doing research. Quiet, careful research that I conducted from my small back room while Michael and Kelly went about their lives, barely noticing me except when they wanted something. Kelly wanted me to watch her friend's dog for the weekend. Michael wanted me to pick up his dry cleaning. Both of them wanted me to understand that I was lucky to be here. Lucky to have their generosity. Lucky to have a chair in the corner where I could sit quietly and not bother anyone. I said yes to everything. I smiled. I stayed small. And I gathered information. Michael's financial situation was worse than I'd thought. He wasn't just late on mortgage payments, he was 3 months behind. The bank had sent a formal notice of default. He had 60 days to bring the payments current or face foreclosure proceedings. I found this out not by snooping but by being invisible. When you're old, people talk around you like you're not there. They leave papers on the kitchen counter. They have phone conversations in the next room without lowering their voices. They forget that you have ears, eyes, and a brain that still works just fine. Kelly had been on the phone with her mother, stress evident in every word. "We're going to lose the house, Mom. Michael's been putting every extra penny into trying to save his largest client's portfolio, and it's not working. The guy's going to pull all his money anyway, and we're going to end up in foreclosure. We can't keep up with the payments." "What about his mother?" Kelly's mother had asked. "Doesn't she have money? She gave us $40,000 for the down payment, but that's all she has." "Well, she might have some savings, but Michael says we can't ask her for more. It would look bad. It would look worse to lose your house." There had been a long pause. Then Kelly had said, "You're right. I'll talk to Michael." They'd approached me that evening. Not directly. Michael had never been good with direct asks when he wanted something uncomfortable. Instead, he'd started talking about family obligations and pulling together in tough times and how everyone needs to contribute. What are you saying, Michael? I'd asked, even though I knew exactly what he was saying. I'm saying that Kelly and I are struggling with the mortgage. The economy's been tough. My income's been unstable. And we could really use some help. How much help? Well, if you have any savings, maybe you could loan us. Give you, Kelly had interrupted. We can't afford to pay it back right now, so it would need to be a gift. Like the down payment. I'd looked at my daughter-in-law. Kelly was 34, polished, professional, ambitious. She'd never liked me much, I'd realized long ago. I represented something she feared. The possibility that youth and beauty and success don't last forever. That someday she too might be old, might need help, might be vulnerable. She wanted me to disappear. And she wanted my money to help make that happen. How much do you need? I'd asked. Michael had looked relieved. $20,000 would get us current on the mortgage and give us a buffer for the next few months. I know it's a lot, Mom, but you'd be saving our home. And it's your home too. You'd be investing in your own security. My own security. A chair in the corner. I'll think about it, I'd said. Michael's face had darkened. Think about it? Mom, we need an answer now. The bank is breathing down our necks. Then I guess you should have managed your money better, I'd said quietly. Like you're always telling me I should do. The silence that had followed was atomic. Kelly had recovered first. Are you serious right now? We've given you a place to live, and you won't help us when we need it. You've given me a chair in the corner, I'd replied. Let me be clear about that. I'd walked back to my room, closed the door, and continued my research. By the end of the week, I knew exactly what I was going to do. It was bold. It was probably going to destroy my relationship with my son, at least for a while. It was definitely going to shock everyone. But it was also going to change everything. I made an appointment with a real estate attorney named Patricia Chun. Her office was downtown, in one of those old converted houses that now held professional services. She was in her 50s, sharp-eyed, with graying hair pulled back in a no-nonsense bun. Tell me what you're thinking, Mrs. Henderson, she said after I'd explained my situation. The house is in foreclosure, I said. My son and daughter-in-law are 3 months behind on their mortgage. They owe about $240,000. The bank is going to foreclose within 60 days, unless they bring the payments current. And you want to help them do that? No, I said clearly. I want to buy the house. Patricia's eyebrows rose. Buy the house? From your son? No. From the bank. Or at the foreclosure auction. However it works. She leaned back in her chair, studying me. That would be quite devastating for your son and his wife. Yes, I agreed. It would be. Are you sure this is what you want to do? I thought about Michael's face when he told me I deserved a chair in the corner. I thought about the $40,000 I'd given him, the years of sacrifice, the promises he'd made and broken. I thought about Kelly's casual cruelty, the way she sighed when I existed too loudly in their space. I thought about how small I'd felt, how diminished, how erased. I'm sure, I said. Patricia nodded slowly. All right. Here's how this works. The house is in pre-foreclosure, which means the bank has filed notice but hasn't seized the property yet. Your son has options. He can bring the payments current, he can sell the house himself, or he can let it go to foreclosure auction. If it goes to auction, anyone can bid. Including me. Including you. However, there's a significant complication: your family. If your son discovers you're the one bidding against him or buying the house out from under him, it could get very messy. There could be legal challenges, accusations of undue influence or interference, especially if he can prove you deliberately sabotaged his ability to save the house. I'm not sabotaging anything, I said. I'm simply declining to give him more of my money. He's sabotaging himself by not making his mortgage payments. That's a fair point. But optics matter. What I'd recommend if you're serious about this is that you work through an LLC. You buy the property through a limited liability company that doesn't obviously connect to you. That way, when the house is sold, either before foreclosure or at auction, your son won't immediately know you're the buyer. Will that protect me legally? It will help. It creates a layer of separation. And honestly, Mrs. Henderson, if this house goes to foreclosure, someone is going to buy it. It might as well be you. You have legitimate reasons for wanting to secure your own housing, especially given how your son has treated you. This isn't revenge, it's self-preservation. I like that framing. Self-preservation. How do we start? Over the next 2 weeks, Patricia helped me set up an LLC called Cornerstone Properties. I funded it with $60,000 of my $75,000 in savings. The name was deliberate. A cornerstone is a foundation, a place of strength, not a corner where you hide away. Then I waited. Michael and Kelly grew more desperate. They'd asked me twice more for money, and both times I'd refused. Their reactions had progressed from angry to incredulous to resigned. They'd stopped pretending to be nice to me. Kelly barely acknowledged my existence. Michael spoke to me only when necessary. His words clipped and cold. "You're being selfish," he told me after the third refusal. "You're watching us lose our home, and you're doing nothing." "I'm doing what you taught me," I'd replied. "Being practical. Making smart decisions. Protecting my own interests." He'd stared at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. Maybe the mother he'd known, the one who'd always said yes, who'd always sacrificed, who'd always put his needs first, was gone. Maybe she died somewhere between all you deserve is a chair in the corner and this moment. Good, I thought. Let her rest. The foreclosure notice became official 30 days later. The house would be sold at public auction in 45 days. Michael and Kelly had one last chance to save it. Find a buyer themselves, sell the house, pay off the mortgage, and walk away with whatever equity remained. They listed the house for $320,000, hoping to make a quick sale and recover something from the disaster. I watched them scramble. Watched the real estate agent come through with potential buyers. Watched Michael and Kelly put on fake smiles and pretend everything was fine while their world crumbled around them. I felt no satisfaction in their suffering. I'm not a cruel person. But I also felt no obligation to save them from consequences they'd created for themselves. 3 weeks before the auction, they got an offer. $270,000 low, but enough to cover the mortgage and leave them with a small amount to start over. Michael was in the kitchen on the phone with the real estate agent, and I heard everything. "We'll take it," he said, desperation evident in his voice. "Yes, we'll accept. When can we close?" My heart sank. If they sold the house privately, my plan wouldn't work. I'd have no opportunity to buy it. I'd be left with my LLC and my savings and no home to show for it. But then Kelly's voice cut through the kitchen, sharp with panic. "Wait. Michael, wait." I heard movement, urgent whispers. Then Michael was back on the phone. "I need to call you back," he said. He hung up and turned to Kelly. "What's wrong?" "The buyers want to close in 2 weeks. But your mom is still living here. We need to give her 30 days notice to vacate. If we don't and she refuses to leave, we could be in breach of contract with the buyers. They could pull out of the sale entirely." Michael's face went pale. "Mom wouldn't do that. She'd leave." "Are you sure? She's refused to help us with money. She's been cold as ice for weeks. What if she decides to dig her heels in out of spite?" "Mom's not spiteful." Kelly's laugh was bitter. "She's been nothing but spiteful lately. I don't trust her. We need to talk to her right now and get her to agree to be out in 2 weeks. Otherwise, we need to pass on this offer and hope we get another one before the auction." They'd found me in my room packing. Not because I'd intended to leave, but because I'd been organizing, preparing for whatever came next. "Mom," Michael said, trying to sound calm, "we need to talk." "All right. We got an offer on the house. A good offer. We're going to sell." "Congratulations," I said evenly. "But we need to close quickly, which means you need to be out in 2 weeks. Can you do that?" I looked at my son. Really looked at him. When had he become this person? This man who could ask his elderly mother to vacate her home with 2 weeks' notice and act like it was reasonable? "No," I said. Michael blinked. "What?" "No, I can't do that. I'm a tenant here. I pay you $600 a month in rent. Legally, you owe me 30 days notice to vacate." "Mom, you're not a tenant. You're family." "Which is it, Michael? Because you can't have it both ways. Either I'm family, in which case you treat me with respect and consideration, or I'm a tenant, in which case you follow the law. You've made it clear I'm not family. So I guess I'm a tenant. And tenants get 30 days. Kelly stepped forward, her face flushed with anger. You're going to ruin this for us? We're about to lose everything, and you're going to hide behind technicalities. I'm not hiding behind anything. I'm simply asserting my rights. Rights that exist specifically to protect people like me from people like you. People like us? Michael's voice rose. We gave you a place to live. You gave me a chair in the corner. The words exploded out of me, louder than I'd intended. You took my money, my help, my cooking, my cleaning, my rent payments, and you told me I deserved a chair in the corner. You made me feel small and useless and unwanted in what you promised would be my home. So no, Michael. I'm not going to scramble to accommodate your timeline. You want me out? Give me proper notice. 30 days. That's the law. The silence that followed was terrible. Finally, Kelly spoke, her voice like ice. Fine. You have 30 days. Starting today. But don't expect any kindness from us in the meantime. You've made your choice. They'd walked out and I'd sat down on my bed shaking. Not from fear. From adrenaline. From the sheer relief of finally standing up for myself. But the 30 days notice had killed their quick sale. The buyers had wanted to close in 2 weeks, and when Michael's agent had explained the delay, they'd backed out. They'd found another house, moved on, left Michael and Kelly scrambling. No other offers came. The market had shifted. The house had been on the market too long. People could smell desperation. The auction date arrived. I didn't tell Michael I'd be there. I didn't tell him about Cornerstone Properties. I simply packed my essentials, arranged for a moving company to collect the rest, and left the house on the morning of day 30. I left a note on the kitchen counter. As required, I vacated by the end of my 30-day notice period. Good luck with everything. Mom, the foreclosure auction was held at the county courthouse, in a bland administrative room that smelled of old paper and fluorescent lights. There were 7 potential bidders. The starting bid was $240,000, the amount owed to the bank. Michael wasn't there. He couldn't afford to bid on his own foreclosed house. He was probably at work, pretending everything was fine, holding together the professional facade while his personal life disintegrated. The bidding started. $240,000. $245. $250. I sat quietly in the back row, my heart pounding. Patricia Chan sat beside me, official and professional in her role, as representative for Cornerstone Properties. $260,000. $265. The other bidders were investors, flippers looking for a deal. They'd calculated their maximum based on potential profit. None of them were emotionally invested. None of them were fighting for anything but money. $270,000. Patricia raised her paddle. $275,000. One of the other bidders countered. $280. $290. Patricia said calmly. The room went quiet. $290,000 was above what most flippers wanted to pay. The profit margin was getting thin. The other bidder hesitated, then shook his head and lowered his paddle. Going once, the auctioneer said. Going twice. Sold to Cornerstone Properties for $290,000. And just like that, I owned my son's house. The legal process took 2 weeks. Transfer of title, eviction notices for Michael and Kelly, who still hadn't connected Cornerstone Properties to me. They thought they'd been bought out by some faceless investment company. They were devastated but resigned. I waited until the paperwork was completely finalized. Until the house was legally, irrevocably mine. Then I called Michael. We need to talk, I said. Can you meet me at the house? The one you used to own. Mom, this isn't a good time. Kelly and I are dealing with a lot right now. I know. That's why we need to talk. Please, Michael. 1 hour of your time. He'd agreed, probably because he was too exhausted to argue. I was waiting in the living room when he arrived. His face was drawn-aged. He'd lost weight. He looked like a man who'd been beaten down by life, and part of me ached for him. Part of me wanted to hug him and make it better like I had when he was a child. But I wasn't that mother anymore. And he wasn't that child. What's this about, Mom? He asked tiredly. Did you want to get some of your things? Because we already packed everything into storage. The new owners are probably going to want us out soon. Sit down, Michael. Something in my tone made him comply. He sat on the couch, the same couch where he'd told me I deserved a chair in the corner. I need to tell you something, I said. And I need you to listen without interrupting. He nodded warily. When you told me I deserved nothing more than a chair in the corner, something inside me changed. I realized that I'd spent my entire life making myself small for other people. For your father when he was alive. For you after he died. I gave and gave and gave, and I never asked for anything in return except respect. Basic human dignity. And you couldn't even give me that. Mom, I'm not finished. You asked me for money to save this house. $20,000. You acted like I owed it to you because we're family. But family works both ways, Michael. Family means respect. It means gratitude. It means treating the people who love you like they matter. You didn't do any of that. You treated me like a burden. An expense. An old woman you were stuck with. My voice was steady. I practiced this. So I made a decision. I decided that I was going to protect myself. That I was going to secure my own future. That I was going to stop waiting for you to value me and start valuing myself. I pulled out the paperwork and set it on the coffee table. The house you're sitting in? I own it. I bought it at the foreclosure auction through an LLC. Cornerstone Properties. That's me. Michael's face went through several transformations: confusion, disbelief, understanding, and finally horror. What? I own this house. Every wall, every room, every square foot. Including the chair in the corner where you thought I belonged. You bought our house? You let us go into foreclosure, and then you bought our house. I didn't let you do anything. You made your own choices. You mismanaged your money. You failed to make your mortgage payments. You treated me terribly and then expected me to bail you out. I simply declined to do so. What happened next was on you. Michael stood up, his face flushing red. This is insane. You're my mother. You're supposed to help me, not sabotage me. I didn't sabotage you. I protected myself. By stealing my house. By buying a foreclosed property at a legal public auction. Anyone could have bought it. I just happened to be the highest bidder. You could have loaned me the money. You could have saved us. I could have, I agreed. But why would I? You made it clear I had no value to you except as a source of money. You reduced me to nothing. So I took my nothing and I built something with it. I built security. I built independence. I built a home where I get to decide who deserves a chair in the corner. Kelly appeared in the doorway. She must have been listening. Her face was white with fury. You vindictive old witch. You did this on purpose. I did it because I had to. Because you two made it clear that I couldn't rely on you. That I wasn't safe with you. So I made myself safe. We could sue you, Kelly spat. This is elder financial exploitation or something. You manipulated the situation. I manipulated nothing. I simply made legal decisions with my own money. And before you threaten lawyers, remember that everything I did is documented and legal. Patricia Chin made sure of that. She's one of the best real estate attorneys in the state. You're welcome to try to sue me, but you'll lose, and you'll just spend more money you don't have. Michael sank back down onto the couch, his head in his hands. I can't believe you did this. I can't believe you made it necessary. Kelly grabbed her purse. We're leaving. You can have your house. I hope you're happy here all alone, you selfish old woman. Actually, I said calmly, you're not leaving just yet. We need to discuss the terms of your tenancy. They both froze. My what? Michael asked. Your tenancy. You're currently living in my house without a lease. I'm prepared to offer you one if you're interested. The look on their faces was almost worth the entire ordeal. You're offering to rent us our own house? Kelly's voice was shrill with disbelief. It's not your house anymore. It's mine. But yes, I'm offering to rent it to you. Market rate, of course. $2,000 a month for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in this neighborhood is actually quite reasonable. You're insane. I'm practical. You need a place to live. I need tenants. This could work out well for everyone. Michael looked up at me, and for the first time, I saw something besides anger in his eyes. Maybe it was respect. Maybe it was just exhaustion. Why would you do this? After everything, why would you offer to let us stay? Because despite everything, you're still my son. And I don't want to see you homeless. But we're going to have clear boundaries now. Clear rules. This is my house. I make the decisions. You pay rent or you leave. You treat me with respect or you leave. You follow the lease terms or you leave. Do you understand? He nodded slowly. I need to hear you say it. I understand. And Kelly. My daughter-in-law's face was a mask of barely controlled rage, but she managed to nod. Fine. Whatever. Good. One more thing. I'm moving into the master bedroom. You two can have one of the other bedrooms. I think there's a nice chair in the corner of the third bedroom if you need extra seating. The parallel wasn't subtle. I didn't want it to be. You're cruel, Kelly whispered. I'm fair, I corrected. There's a difference. They'd accepted the lease. They'd had no choice. Their credit was destroyed from the foreclosure. No one else would rent to them without significant deposits and co-signers. I was their only option and they knew it. The first month was icy. Michael and Kelly barely spoke to me. They paid their rent on time and kept to their room and the common areas when I wasn't using them. We orbited each other like hostile planets. But slowly things began to shift. Michael started doing small things. Fixing the leaky faucet in the bathroom. Mowing the lawn. Taking out the trash without being asked. He didn't say much, but his actions spoke. I'm trying. Kelly took longer. She was proud and I'd humiliated her. But eventually she started joining me in the kitchen while I cooked dinner. First she just watched. Then she started helping. Then one evening she said quietly, I'm sorry. I looked up from the vegetables I was chopping. For what? For how I treated you. For making you feel unwelcome in your own. In what was supposed to be your home. I was stressed and scared about money and I took it out on you. That wasn't right. It wasn't a complete apology. It didn't address everything. But it was a start. Thank you, I said. I accept your apology. She nodded and went back to stirring the sauce. We cooked together in silence, but it was a different kind of silence. Not hostile. Just careful. Michael's breakthrough came 3 months into the new arrangement. He knocked on my bedroom door one evening, and when I opened it, I saw that his eyes were red. Can I talk to you? He asked. Of course. We sat in the living room and he said, I've been doing a lot of thinking. About everything that happened. About what I said to you. The chair in the corner thing. He took a shaky breath. I was under so much pressure. The mortgage, my job, Kelly wanting to start a family, and I felt like I was drowning. And when you moved in, instead of seeing it as having family close, I saw it as one more thing I had to manage. One more person I had to take care of. And I resented it. I know. But that wasn't fair to you. You didn't ask to be taken care of. You've been taking care of yourself just fine. You sold your house to be with us because I convinced you it was a good idea. And then I made you regret it. I made you feel like you were nothing. He was crying now, really crying, and my heart cracked open. Michael, you're not nothing, Mom. You're everything. You're the reason I got through college. You're the reason I have any success at all. You worked 2 jobs after Dad died to make sure I had what I needed. You never complained. You never made me feel guilty. You just loved me and supported me, and I repaid that by treating you like garbage. You were struggling. That's not an excuse. I'm an adult. I should have been better. He wiped his eyes. When you bought this house, I was furious. I thought you were trying to punish me. But you weren't, were you? You were just trying to survive. Trying to make sure you had security because I'd made it clear you couldn't count on me. That's exactly what I was doing. I'm so sorry, Mom. For all of it. For making you feel small. For taking you for granted. For forgetting that you're a person with needs and dignity and rights. I'm so sorry. I pulled my son into a hug and we both cried. For what had been lost. For what had been broken. For what might still be repaired. I forgive you, I whispered. But things can't go back to how they were. I know. I don't want them to. The old way was broken. We need something new. Something better. Something with respect. Yes, with respect. And boundaries. And honesty. He pulled back, looking at me seriously. I want to be better, Mom. I want to be the son you deserve. Will you give me a chance to try? I already am. You're living in my house, aren't you? He laughed, a broken, wet sound. Yeah, I am. And I'm grateful for it. Truly. We talked for hours that night. About the past, about the present, about what the future might look like. About the ways we'd both made mistakes, though his were certainly larger than mine. About how to rebuild trust and create a healthier relationship. It wasn't a magical fix. There were still hard days. Still moments of tension. But it was a beginning. Kelly got pregnant 4 months after I bought the house. When she told me, she was nervous, like she thought I might use it as leverage somehow. Instead, I hugged her and told her I was excited to be a grandmother. Really? She asked. After everything? Really? This baby is innocent of all our drama. And I'm not going to let my conflict with you and Michael affect my grandchild. She cried then, hormones and relief and maybe genuine emotion all mixed together. I want to do better. I want our child to grow up seeing healthy family relationships. Not what we had before. Then we'll build that. Together. The baby was born 7 months later. A girl. They named her Helen after my mother. When Michael told me the name, I cried. We wanted to honor you, he said. And everything you've done for us. Everything you've overcome. Helen is 3 now. She calls me grandma and climbs into my lap to read stories. Michael and Kelly are still renting from me, though we've modified the arrangement. They pay less rent in exchange for handling maintenance and repairs on the house. They're rebuilding their savings slowly, talking about eventually buying another house. But they're not in a hurry. And neither am I. You know, Michael said to me recently, I used to think that buying this house from under us was the cruelest thing you could have done. And now I think it was the kindest. You could have just walked away. Cut me off completely. I would have deserved it. Instead, you bought the house and offered us a place to stay. You gave us a second chance we didn't earn. You're earning it now. He smiled. I'm trying. Every day. Kelly has become something close to a friend. We cook together often, trading recipes and stories. She's confided in me about her fears about motherhood, about money, about the future. I've shared my own struggles, my own regrets, my own journey to finding my voice. You taught me something important, she said one afternoon while we were baking cookies with Helen. You taught me that being kind doesn't mean being weak. That you can be generous and still have boundaries. That loving someone doesn't mean letting them hurt you. Those are hard lessons. They are. But they're important. I want Helen to grow up knowing them. I want her to be strong like you. I looked at my granddaughter, flower on her face and joy in her eyes, and felt something settle in my chest. Peace maybe. Or vindication. Or just the simple satisfaction of knowing I'd survived. The house is mine. My name on the title, my rules on the walls, my decisions about who stays and who goes. I have the master bedroom with its en-suite bathroom and large windows that let in morning light. I have my books on the shelves and my photos on the walls and my favorite chair. Not in the corner, but right in the center of the living room where I can see everything. I'm not hidden away anymore. I'm not diminished or dismissed. I'm not a burden or an afterthought or an obligation. I'm Emily Henderson. I'm 69 years old. I own my own home, earned through 50 years of work and careful saving, and finally the courage to stand up for myself. My son told me I deserved a chair in the corner. So I bought the house and put my chair wherever I damn well pleased. And every morning when I sit in that chair with my coffee and watch the sunrise through my windows, I think, this is what I deserve. Respect. Security. Dignity. Place where I matter. Not because someone grants it to me, but because I claimed it for myself.